Last night, Alex Berenson, the independent journalist formerly of the New York Times, told Tucker Carlson that Scott Gottlieb, the former FDA commissioner and current Pfizer board member, pressured Twitter to ban Berenson from the platform because of his writings relative to Dr. Fauci and how they might incite violence against Dr. Fauci. Here's what Berenson told Tucker last night.
When I came back on the platform last year in August and was asking even harder questions about the vaccines at a time when the Biden administration knew they were going to be pushing for mandates, knew they were going to be pushing for boosters, they still wouldn't ban me. And then Scott Gottlieb, who is a director of Pfizer on the executive committee of Pfizer, which is made tens of billions of dollars from selling these vaccines, went to Twitter and said, this guy is a problem. And then they banned me.
So you criticized his product in which he had a financial interest and he got you censored. Scott Gottlieb.
And just to bring some of you up to date who may have missed this story last year, Twitter did ban him in August of 2021. Berenson got banned from Twitter in August 2021. He sued, and subsequently, very recently, over the August, I think it was, won basically through a settlement and got reinstated on Twitter. So what Berenson and Gottlieb are arguing over now is how he got banned. So last night he posted a more detailed description of Gottlieb's involvement on his Substack. Let's take a look at this. In the main push of Berenson argument, and Tucker noticed this right away, is effectively the government pharmaceutical industrial complex wanted Berenson gone because they threatened the profit stream, which of course was the vaccine. So Pfizer board member Scott Gottlieb secretly pressed Twitter to censor me days before Twitter suspended my account last year. So you go into this article and you find this exhibit, which I'll pull up a little bit bigger here for you. There we go. Right there. This article or this email is produced through Berenson's discovery and his lawsuit against Twitter. And so now he has, through these emails, through discovery, exactly who asked him to get banned from Twitter. And so here he is here, Scott Gottlieb, from Scott Gottlieb to somebody at Twitter, redacted. And this is August 24th of last year. This is what's promoted on Twitter. This is why Tony needs a security detail, Tony being Dr. Fauci. And the article in reference here is this article called Quite Frankly, the Arrogance of Anthony Fauci and What It Means for the Rest of Us. So I said to myself, well, it's very important to know what was in that article. Did it in any way imply any type of incitement of violence against Dr. Fauci? Because if it does, it would be incredibly inappropriate and wrong. So let's actually look at what Berenson wrote in that article. I had to scroll through the entire Berenson Substack archive to come up with this. For whatever reason, it didn't come up on search, so I will make sure that I will paste the link in the description. When you read this article called Quite Frankly, the Arrogance of Anthony Fauci and What It Means for the Rest of Us, August 24th, 2021, it is scathing critique of Fauci's performance as the country's doctor, right? The boy from Brooklyn who would become America's doctor. It is scathing, but in no way does it call for or suggest or imply in any way, shape, or form violence. Not even close to that. It is a critique. It is a little bit of parody. There's some strong criticism, but it's nothing approaching the incitement of, not even close. It's not even close. I think when you skim through this entire article, and you can go read it for yourself, again, I'll post it in the link, and I know that's a little tough in your eyes, Fauci attacking me is attacking science. He makes a pretty big point of how that was ridiculous. But I think the important point here comes at the end. Figuring out whether the risk is real and what to do if it is will require an open debate. He's calling for debate. He's not calling for violence. That may include uncomfortable moments for public health advocates who have pressed these vaccines. That is about as aggressive as the article gets. Uncomfortable moments. In other words, people who write articles like these are making the people in power uncomfortable. That's not violent. But what Berenson is one of those like burr under the saddle journalists who just burrow in. No elected official would ever want, or a public official would ever want Alex Berenson on their tail, because the guy he's like a dog without a bone. Now, you could criticize him for a couple of things, including the fact, and I'm the last one to say this, I'm no Walter Cronkite here. I'm not even on television. But Alex Berenson on television, he's awful. He's an awful presenter. He looks off. He is a face for it. But so do I. But nonetheless, he stinks on television, and he probably is aware of that, I'm guessing. But he's a very good writer, but more than importantly than that, he's a digger. He's doggedly determined to tell the truth. And as I said in another video just the other day, and I can't remember whose quote this is, as a journalist, when you sit down to the keyboard, you shouldn't have any friends. So this is what Gottlieb said about all of this on Squawk Box this morning, CNBC.
Former New York Times reporter Alex Berenson said you got him kicked off of Twitter. This is a kind of a convoluted conspiracy theory that somehow you told Twitter to get rid of him because he was asking too many questions about the efficacy and safety of the COVID vaccine. Do you just want to respond to that and tell us your side?
Yeah, look, I'm not going to comment directly on that, and he's threatening litigation, too, so another reason not to respond. I've raised concerns around social media broadly, and I've done it on these networks, around the threats that were being made on these platforms and the inability of these platforms to police direct threats, physical threats about people. That's my concerns around social media and what's going on in that ecosystem. I'm unconcerned about debate. I'm unconcerned about debate taking place in platforms. I am very concerned when threats. I'm very concerned when threats are being made, physical threats against people's safety.
This had to do with.
I'm very concerned about physical threats being made against people's safety and the people who gin up those threats against individuals. Okay. That concerns me.
The problem for Scott Gottlieb is that no one can point to anything that Alex Berenson said or wrote that is a physical threat to Dr. Fauci's safety. Additionally, and Gottlieb doubles down on this, and he says, or people who gin up attitudes that might threaten Dr. Fauci. I mean, he literally says that. And Berenson today has now responded to Gottlieb's interview from this morning. Let's take a look at that. So this was posted just about midday on Friday, October 14th. Scott Gottlieb just slandered me on live television on CNBC, where he is a contributor. I think that means that CNBC probably pays him like some type of money to be on CNBC. He just accused me of physical threats against Tony Fauci, and he's daring me to sue him for defamation. And I just might take him up on this offer. This morning, CNBC anchor Joe Kernan asked Scott Gottlieb about my Substack, and instead, Gottlieb said, "Do you want to tell your side?" And he said, this is the money quote here, I think. "I'm unconcerned about debate. I'm unconcerned about debate taking in these platforms. What I'm very concerned about is when threats. I'm very concerned when threats are being made, physical threats about people's safety. And I'm very concerned with threats being made against people's safety and people who gin up those threats against individuals. That concerns me." You know what concerns me? What concerns me is when people formerly in the government, but now in high positions of industry, like at Pfizer, Scott Gottlieb, conflate someone's First Amendment right to criticize a government official with a critique of that government official's performance, sometimes with some sarcastic humor, where they conflate that with a physical threat of violence, which it most certainly isn't. That is what concerns me. When you conflate criticism with a physical threat, that is not what happened in this case. Not even close. And when you go to that extreme, Mr. Gottlieb or Dr. Gottlieb, whatever your name is, you degrade your credibility and your moral authority to lead, which is what you're supposed to be doing. Hey, I'm John F. Gately. You can call me Jack. I'm broadcasting to you from beautiful Plymouth, America's hometown, Massachusetts, behind enemy lines. Have a great day. Bye-bye.